The awkward glance. Ray stepped off the shuttle, tired from the long flight through space. His boots touched the cold metal floor of the orbital station above planet Elena. It was supposed to be a quiet posting, a research station with few people. Ray liked that. He wasn't here for adventure, he just wanted peace and maybe to fix a few machines. Room 14B, the officer told him. Ray nodded and followed the narrow hallway until he found it. The door slid open. Inside was a small room, with 2 beds, a desk, and soft blue lights. But what caught his attention was the figure sitting cross-legged on the floor. She looked up, big silver eyes, light green skin, long fingers with thin claws. She was small, thin, and wearing a robe that shimmered like silk, an alien. "I didn't know I had a roommate," Ray said, a bit surprised. "I am Nira," she answered, her voice soft and calm. "I was told a human would come." "You are the human?" He smiled politely. "Yeah, I guess we're stuck together." The first few days went well. Ray worked on the power systems. Nira was quiet and kept to herself. They didn't talk much, but they didn't fight either. Nira spent most of her time reading from a glowing tablet or meditating near the window. One evening, Ray came back from work early. His shirt was soaked with sweat. He dropped his bag, yawned, and pulled off his shirt. Then he kicked off his boots and walked toward the shower room inside the quarters. But as he stepped into the side room, he heard the door whoosh open behind him. He turned. It was Nira. For a full second, they both froze. Ray stood there in nothing but his shorts. His back was wet. His chest was bare. Nira's silver eyes widened. Her antennae twitched. Her hands trembled. Sorry. Ray grabbed a towel from the chair and quickly covered himself. But Nira didn't move. She was staring. "I thought you were out," she whispered. Ray nodded quickly, still holding the towel. "I didn't lock the door." "That's my bad." "I'm really sorry." Nira blinked. Her cheeks turned a deeper shade of green. "No," she said. "It is I who should apologize." Then she did something unexpected. She bowed deeply, her forehead almost touching the floor. "I have seen what I should not have." Ray frowned. "It's not that big of a deal. I mean, accidents happen." But Nira didn't look up. "To my people, it is not accident. It is sacred. You were uncovered." "What?" Ray raised an eyebrow. She stood slowly, still looking down. "When one sees another without their covering, it means something deep. It means a life connection has started." Ray stared at her, confused. "You mean, like a relationship?" Nira nodded slowly. He laughed nervously. "I think there's been a mistake. On Earth, this kind of thing happens all the time. It doesn't mean anything serious." "To your people, maybe," she said, her voice still soft. "But to mine, you have been seen. That means a bond has begun, and once it starts..." She didn't finish the sentence. Ray ran a hand through his messy hair. "Okay, let's slow down. Maybe we can fix this. Maybe there's a way to cancel the bond." Nira looked up at him with unsure eyes. "Perhaps. But the mark may have already started." Ray took a deep breath. "Mark?" Nira turned away and walked to her side of the room. She gently pulled down the edge of her robe and showed the top of her shoulder. There, glowing softly under her skin, was a faint light, like a tattoo but moving slightly, pulsing with life. "This mark appears when one has seen," she said. "It is a sign to others. It says, 'I have chosen, even if I did not mean to.'" Ray stared at it. His heart beat faster. What had he gotten into? That night, they both stayed silent. Ray lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling. Nira sat near the window, whispering to herself in her own language. He didn't know what would happen next, but deep down, something told him that this was just the beginning. Something strange had started, and it wasn't over yet. Strange Reactions, Succor. Next morning was quiet. Ray woke up early and glanced across the room. Neera was already awake, sitting on her bed with her long legs crossed and her silver eyes watching the sunrise through the window. Her hands were folded in her lap, and she hadn't moved all night. Ray rubbed his face. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. Maybe aliens had strange customs and this would blow over. But as he stood and stretched, Neera turned to look at him. Her eyes didn't blink. Her antennae twitched once. "Good morning," she said softly. Morning," Ray replied. Then came the strange part. She stood and slowly walked over to him. She held out something, an old leather band. It looked like a bracelet. "For you," she said. Ray stared. "What is it?" "A token. For the bond." Ray's heart skipped. "Neera, we need to talk about that. I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't even know." "I know," she interrupted. "But the bond has started. You saw me. I saw you." The mark appeared. "There is no lie." Ray hesitated. He took the bracelet slowly and looked at it. "And if we don't want the bond?" "There is a way," she whispered. "But it must be done before 3 sun cycles. After that, it becomes permanent." Ray looked out the window. 3 days. That's all they had to undo, whatever this was. He sighed. "All right. Then we'll find a way. Together." Later that day, Ray walked into the dining hall to grab something to eat. He spotted a group of human engineers sitting together and headed toward them. But before he reached them, Neera came and silently sat beside him, her eyes on the others. "Hey," one of the humans joked. "Looks like you've got a shadow." Ray smiled awkwardly. "She's just being careful." But the others didn't laugh. They noticed the way Neera sat. Close, almost protective. One of them whispered, "Is she your mate?" Ray quickly shook his head. "No, it's nothing like that." Neera turned and looked at him. "You are not proud of the bond?" Ray's face turned red. "It's not about that. I just don't want people to get the wrong idea." Her antennae lowered. Her voice was quiet. "I understand." Ray felt bad. This wasn't her fault. Not really. That evening, Neera followed Ray to the tech bay where he worked. She didn't speak much, just watched. After an hour, she handed him a tool before he even asked. "You know what this is?" Ray asked, surprised. "I watched you yesterday. You were stuck here." Ray looked at her. "You've been paying attention?" She gave a small nod. "I am learning your ways. If I am to bond with you, I must understand your world." Ray leaned back. "But what if we're not going to bond?" Neera didn't answer. Instead, she quietly stood and left the room. That night, Ray returned to their shared quarters and found Neera lying on the floor with her robe loosely wrapped around her. She was breathing slowly, but her body looked stiff. There was something off. "Neera." She didn't open her eyes. He knelt beside her and touched her arm. "Hey, you okay?" Her skin was cold, not freezing, but colder than before. Suddenly, her eyes opened. "Do not worry. This is part of the reaction. The bond is inside me now. My body is changing." Ray stepped back. "Changing? Do not fight the bond. My mind tries to accept it, but my heart is already confused." Ray swallowed hard. "This is serious, isn't it?" "Yes," she said simply. There was silence for a long time. Then she added, "You do not need to feel what I feel. Just know. I'm not angry. I only want to understand." Ray sat beside her. "I didn't ask for this." "I know." He looked at her face. There was no hatred there, no fear. Just a strange kind of sadness. And something else. Hope? The next morning, Neera was better. She moved normally again. But now she kept a little more distance. Still kind, still helpful, but no longer as close. Ray noticed. And strangely, he missed it. He watched her from the corner of his eye. Something had changed in him too. The binding mark. Ray sat alone in the common area, spinning the bracelet Nira gave him between his fingers. The leather was warm now, as if it had soaked in her body heat, or maybe something deeper. 3 days. That's what she had said. 3 sun cycles until the bond could no longer be broken. He didn't want to hurt her. But this whole thing had started because of an accident. Just a moment. A mistake. And now it felt like the universe had pushed them into something neither of them was ready for. Suddenly, the bracelet stopped moving. A hand rested on his. It was Nira. Her eyes looked tired but calm. "I have something to show you," she said softly. Without waiting for permission, she turned and moved toward the hallway. Ray stood and followed her. They entered the medical wing, dark and quiet. She took him to a small scanner. She stepped inside. Then she pulled down the top of her robe again, revealing her shoulder. The mark had grown brighter. No longer soft, it was glowing like golden ink. It moved under her skin like a small river of light. Ray gasped. "It has fully formed," she said. "The bond recognizes you." He stared at the mark. "Does it hurt?" "No," she said, "but I feel you now. Inside me. Thoughts, small feelings, your presence." Ray took a step back. "Like a psychic link?" She nodded. "Very faint, but it will grow stronger each day." Ray was silent for a long moment. "Is there really no way to stop it?" She looked down. "There is one way, but it is not easy, and it's dangerous." Ray's voice dropped. "What is it?" Later that day, they sat together in the dark of their room. Nira explained everything. "There is a healer, an old one. She lives in the lower sector. Hidden. Few know her. She can stop the bond even after it has started. But her method is risky. Sometimes it breaks the bond. Sometimes it breaks the mind." Ray frowned. "The mind?" She opens the link with force, pulls it apart. Sometimes the connection screams. Sometimes it doesn't survive. Ray looked at her. "What do you want?" "I don't know," Nira whispered. "Part of me wants to keep the bond. It feels warm, like I belong to something. But I do not want to trap you." Ray hesitated. "You're not trapping me. I just didn't expect this." She nodded. "Neither did I." They spent the next day searching for the healer. The lower sector was like a maze. Dark alleys, flickering lights, and thick air filled with strange smells. They passed a dozen stalls, saw creatures with long necks and sharp teeth. No one spoke to them. Finally, a small voice whispered from behind a curtain. "You seek the bond breaker?" Ray and Nira turned. A figure stood in the shadows, short, with 3 arms, and a glowing eye. "Come," she said. Inside the room was a circle of crystals and wires. The air hummed with energy. "I see the mark," the healer said, nodding at Nira. "Deep one, growing fast. You don't have much time." Ray stepped forward. "Can you break it?" The healer looked at him. "Yes, but it hurts. You will both scream." Nira looked at Ray. Her eyes trembled. He looked back. He wasn't sure what to do. The healer placed her hands on both of their foreheads. "Decide now. If you stay, the bond becomes life. If you leave, it leaves scars." Ray closed his eyes. He remembered her kindness, her voice, the way she tried to learn his tools, the way she whispered at night when she thought he was sleeping. He opened his eyes. "I need time," he said. They left the healer's place in silence. Back in their room, Nira sat on her bed, holding her hands tightly in her lap. Ray stood near the window. The stars outside blinked gently. Then he spoke. I don't hate the bond." She turned toward him. "I think I'm scared, not of you, but of how fast this is happening." Nira nodded. "I feel the same." Ray took a deep breath. "Can we not break it yet? Just wait?" A little longer? A soft smile touched her lips. Yes, she said. We can wait. The bond was still glowing, but now, it wasn't frightening. Now it was something new, something unknown, something they would face together, running out of time. 3 sunrises had passed. The third one had just begun. Neera sat still on her bed, her hands glowing faintly where the bond mark had spread. It now reached, up her neck like soft golden vines pulsing gently with life. Ray stood by the mirror, splashing cold water on his face. They hadn't talked much since their visit to the healer. Not because they were angry, but because both of them were thinking. Too much. Each of them wondered the same thing. What would happen if they didn't break the bond? That morning, a message flashed on Ray's communicator. Transfer orders. Ray Peterson. You are being relocated to Station Delta 6. Departure in 48 hours. His heart sank. Hey, Neera, he said, holding the small screen in his hand. She looked up at him slowly. Her eyes already knew what he was going to say. You're leaving, she said. Ray nodded. I didn't ask for it. It just came. Neera stared at the window. Then we have less than 2 sun cycles. Ray sat beside her. We have to decide. Do we go to the healer, or... He didn't finish the sentence. Neera's voice was quiet. Or we stay bonded, even across distance. Ray looked into her eyes. Is that even possible? She hesitated. Yes, but it is painful. For bonded pairs to live apart, it causes dreams, longing. Some go mad. Ray sighed. Then I guess we don't have a choice. But Neera surprised him. There is another way, she whispered. I could request a mate transfer visa. If approved, I could follow you. Ray blinked. You'd really leave your world, your work, just to stay connected to me? She nodded. That's how strong the bond is becoming. He stood, pacing the floor. His heart was racing. This is too much, we barely know each other. But the bond knows, Neera said gently. It does not wait. Later that day, Neera brought Ray to a quiet garden deck, hidden between 2 fuel towers. The sky above was filled with stars and slow-moving shuttles. I come here to think, she said. They sat down on the cool metal floor. Ray watched the stars. I keep thinking, what if this is all just chemical? Some alien instinct, not real love. Maybe, Neera replied. But what if all love starts that way, and only grows real when we choose not to run? Ray stared at her. He didn't have an answer. She looked down at her arm. The golden vines were now wrapping around her wrist. The bond will complete by nightfall, she said. Ray's breath caught. And after that? I will not be able to hide it, she whispered. Every elder in my species will see it. They will summon us. Ray looked away. And if I say no? They will punish me, Neera said softly. They will believe I dishonored the bond. And if I say yes? Then you become part of me. Forever. They returned to their room in silence. Ray lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling. He could feel a warmth in his chest now. It came in waves, like a heartbeat that wasn't his own. He looked at Neera. She was glowing softly in the dark, her breathing slow, her face peaceful. He didn't hate it. He didn't fear it anymore either. He stood and walked to her side. Neera. She opened her eyes. I don't want to break the bond, he said, but I don't want to rush it either. I want to get to know you, not just because of some link. She nodded slowly. Then let us begin. Ray smiled. Start with something easy. What's your favorite food? She blinked, surprised. Then she whispered, fermented moon fruit. Ray laughed. That sounds awful. She smiled. For humans, maybe. That night, Ray dreamed of Neera's voice, her laughter, her warmth, and when he woke up, her head was resting gently near his shoulder. They hadn't touched, but the bond had. It was still there, still growing. But now it didn't feel forced. Now, It felt real. The council's judgment. The next morning, alarms echoed through the space station. Ray rushed into the hallway, only half dressed. Neera stood already in uniform, calm but alert. A red light blinked on the wall. Council shuttle arrival, docking bay 03. Ray's blood turned cold. They're here. Neera nodded. They sensed the bond. It has completed. Ray looked at her arm. The glowing vines had wrapped fully around her wrist and shoulder, now forming a full ring near her heart. There was no more hiding. 2 hours later, Ray stood before the Council of Elders, a group of 5 alien leaders in flowing silver robes. Their faces were unreadable. Their voices echoed without emotion. One of them, Elder Soluan, spoke. You were seen, human, by one of our kind. You allowed the bond. You shared space, meals, and thoughts. You have completed the sacred joining. Ray swallowed hard. It was an accident at first. I didn't mean for it to happen. Elder Soluan's voice grew sharper. Yet you did not break it. Another elder, a woman with glowing eyes, added, Now the bond is law. The mark has formed. And so comes the test. Ray blinked. What test? You must enter the mirror room, the elder said. You will see Neera's soul, and she will see yours. If you are true, your thoughts pure, the bond remains. If not, you will be broken. Ray's heart raced. What happens if we refuse? Then she is punished, and you are sent away. Ray looked at Neera. She did not flinch. I will go, he said. The mirror room was not made of mirrors. It was made of light. Ray stood in a circle of glowing beams. Neera stood opposite him. Between them, a sphere floated. It shimmered softly like liquid air. Place your hands. A voice echoed from above. They both lifted their hands and touched the sphere. The world around them disappeared. Suddenly, Ray was inside a memory, not his own. He saw a young Neera, alone in a cold forest hiding from hunters. He felt her fear. He felt the cold bite of wind on her skin. He heard her mother's voice telling her to run. Another flash, Neera sitting in a room full of others, all looking the same, all dressed the same, but Neera feeling different. Lonely. Empty. Then came a moment. Him. The day she saw him. The light of his skin. The way he laughed. Her shock when she saw him uncovered. And the spark she didn't understand. He saw it all. She had felt safe for the first time. Then it was Ray's turn. He tried to block it, but the sphere pulled. His childhood. His lonely nights staring at the stars. His father yelling. His mother crying. The silence afterward. Then the day he signed the work contract just to escape Earth. He saw himself laugh, fake and hollow, alone in the tech bay. Then Neera, the day she looked at him with soft, questioning eyes. The first time he wanted someone to stay, he saw her reach for his hand in the memory, and he let her. The sphere faded. They stood again in the glowing circle. The elders stood silent. Then Elder Soluan stepped forward. He placed one long hand on Ray's chest. You saw her soul, she saw yours, and still you stayed. Ray nodded. I did. Elder Soluan turned to the others. The 5 elders hummed in quiet unison. Then they bowed. The bond is pure. The joining is true. Ray let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Neera stood close now. Her fingers gently brushed his. You did not turn away, she whispered. Ray smiled, a little shaky. Neither did you. Elder Soluan stepped closer. You are one now, in spirit, if not by species. We honor your choice. Ray raised his eyebrows. So, no punishment? The elder actually smiled. No punishment. Only the path forward. Later, in their quarters, Ray collapsed onto his bed. I thought I was going to be erased, he joked. Neera sat beside him, calm as always, but there was a tiny sparkle in her eyes. You saw who I was, she said softly, not just what I am. Ray turned toward her. And I liked what I saw, he said. Outside, the stars moved slowly, but inside that small room, something stronger than space laws or species rules had formed. A bond that started by accident had now become real. Something more than a mistake. 2 days after the Council's judgment, the space station returned to its normal rhythm. Ships came and went. Lights blinked. Workers moved along like nothing had happened. But inside room 14B, everything had changed. Ray and Neera no longer spoke like strangers. The silence between them now felt warm, not awkward. She still rose early, still meditated by the window, but now, sometimes, Ray sat beside her. They didn't always speak. They didn't have. That morning, Ray brought back 2 food trays from the mess hall. He placed one in front of Neera, grinning. I convinced the chef to let me try alien food today. You get my breakfast. Neera looked at the small glowing cubes on his plate. Those are Zell root pods. They taste like bitter smoke. Ray took a bite, then coughed hard. Neera tilted her head. I warned you. Ray wiped his tongue with a napkin. You set me up. She gave him a rare smile. You smiled again, Ray said, catching her reaction. I am trying. Later, Ray repaired a vent panel while Neera watched. He dropped a tool and bent down to pick it up, just as she reached for it too. Their hands touched and froze, not because of surprise, but because something passed between them, like a quiet breath shared in still air. Ray stood slowly. Neera didn't pull her hand back. I keep wondering, he said softly, if none of that had happened, if you hadn't walked in, if there was no bond, would we have ever really talked? Neera answered without hesitation. No, Ray blinked. Why not? You are human, she said, and I was afraid of humans. Ray frowned. Why? My kind fears your kind's fire, she admitted. Your emotions burn loud. You feel everything fast. Joy, anger, hunger, love. It is intense. Ray smiled a little. And now? She looked into his eyes. Now I see your fire can warm, not just burn. That night they didn't sleep right away. Neera brought out a small glowing box from under her bed. This is from my world, she said. It holds memory crystals. She opened it. Inside were small, floating orbs of light. Ray stared at them. They looked like fireflies. She touched one. A soft hum filled the room, and an image formed in the air. A child, young with smaller antennae, was dancing through tall red grass. Laughter echoed faintly. That is me, she said. Before the war. Ray sat up straighter. You were in a war? Neera nodded. Everyone was. It burned our homes. It scattered our tribes. That is why we travel now. That is why I came here. Ray watched her closely. You've lost a lot. She looked down. Yes, but then I found you. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, this wasn't just a mistake. She looked up. This whole bond thing, it didn't just happen, Ray continued. Yeah, it started weird, but I don't think it's wrong anymore. Neera took a long breath. I used to believe fate was written, that my life was meant for silence and solitude. But now, I believe fate brought me noise, fire, you. Ray laughed gently. Well, I am noisy. She gave him another smile. In the quiet of the night, Neera rested her head on Ray's shoulder. The room didn't feel like shared quarters anymore. It felt like home. The next morning, Neera received a message from her homeworld. The elders had seen the completed bond and granted her the right to formally join a human, something almost unheard of. But there was one condition. She must return for the ceremony. Ray read the message beside her. You have to go back? He asked. Yes, she said, but only if you agree to join me there. Ray raised an eyebrow. Like a wedding? Neera paused, then nodded. Yes, but in my culture it is not about law. It is about truth. We stand before both our peoples and share memory. No lies, no hiding. Ray blinked. That's kind of intense. Yes, she said, but I want you there. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached for the old bracelet she had given him. He put it on and said, "Then we'll go together." That night before sleeping, Ray whispered to her, "Even if this started as an accident, I don't want to undo it." And Neera replied, "Then it was never a mistake." Roommates, no more. The shuttle to Neera's homeworld was small and quiet. Ray sat beside her, watching stars streak past through the windows. He'd traveled before, but never like this. This wasn't a job. This wasn't an accident. This was a choice. And the woman beside him, alien or not, was part of that choice now. Neera's planet, Thalen, shimmered green and blue beneath layers of mist. Floating trees reached into the clouds, and long bridges of woven light connected one mountaintop city to another. It was beautiful, but strange. Ray had never felt so human in his life. As they walked through the city, people stared. Not with anger, but with surprise. Whispers followed them like wind. Is that the human she bonded with? Impossible. No one has crossed the soul mark before. Look at his eyes. He's not afraid. Neera walked proudly beside him, her hand never leaving his. They reached the circle of joining at dawn. A ring of elders, family, and witnesses stood around them, all dressed in robes of shifting light. The sky above opened in soft hues of pink and gold. A memory crystal floated between Ray and Neera. Elder Soluin had followed them from the station and now stepped forward again. This bond was not planned, he said to the crowd. But it was, tested, and it held. He looked at Ray. Do you understand what you give up? Ray nodded. Yes. You may never return to Earth as you were. I don't want to, Ray said. Not without her. Soluin turned to Neera. And you? Do you accept a being of fire who speaks too fast and feels too deep? Neera's voice was clear. Yes. His fire warms me. Then came the moment of memory. Each placed a hand on the crystal. Flashes of their time together filled the air. First awkward moments, small jokes, gentle touches, silent comfort, and the bond glowing between them. There was no music, just quiet honesty. No lies, no fear, only truth. When it was over, no one spoke. Then an elder stepped forward and handed them a ribbon of gold. You are no longer separate, she said. Not by species, not by distance, you are joined. Neera tied one end to her wrist. Ray tied the other. The crowd bowed. And for the first time, they were no longer strangers, no longer roommates, no longer mistake and misunderstanding. They were chosen. Back on the station weeks later, things had changed. Their room was filled with soft plants from Neera's home and small gadgets Ray had built. 2 beds had been replaced by one. Her robe now hung beside his jacket. Her crystals rested on his shelf. Ray came in after a long day at work. Neera was meditating near the window, her antennae glowing faintly in the moonlight. He dropped his tools and walked over. Without a word, he sat behind her, wrapped his arms around her gently, and rested his chin on her shoulder. You smell like engines, she said. You smell like home, he replied. She leaned into him. Later that night, while watching the stars, Neera whispered, Do you regret it? Ray looked at her. The bond? She nodded. He shook his head. Not even a little. I once feared humans, she said. I once thought aliens were cold, he said. She smiled. And now? I sleep next to the best one I've met. The station lights dimmed. The stars outside blinked. And in a quiet room once shared by strangers, a bond, born by accident, now beat like a second heart. Not roommates, Not outsiders, but partners. Together, forever.